Hello, GrimSimmer here, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Please don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so that way you can be notified every single time I upload new Sims content. Before we jump into the video, I do want to acknowledge the importance of mental health. Mental health is just as important as your physical health, so please remember to make yourself a priority and reach out for help if you need some. I definitely know that's easier said than done, but remember that the first step is always the hardest. So to help you with that first step, I have put links in the description below for free and paid for mental health resources. About a year ago, I came across the video titled Animal Crossing and My Mental Health by Boldly Wired. If you want to check it out, I'll have it linked in the description below as well. As I was watching this video, I found myself resonating with a lot of what was said, and I quickly realized that my Animal Crossing was The Sims. However, this video is not about my own personal mental health. This video is about The Sims and how it has helped members of the community struggling with a form of mental illness. Hopefully this video opens up a conversation about the negative stigma around mental health and makes you at home feel a little bit less alone. In this video, I am going to be covering the research I did via a survey I posted online titled Mental Illness in The Sims, going over the overall takeaways I got from the survey. And I know I mentioned that this video was not about my personal mental health, but I am going to briefly cover my own personal experience as well. And then many of you that responded to the survey did express a lot of interest in what others had to say, so I pulled out some responses that stuck out to me and I will be reading through them at the end of this video. And if you want more details on my next video essay and how you can get involved, then stick around till the very end. Before we get started, I do have a couple disclaimers that I'd like to cover first. As I mentioned, I posted a 9-question survey titled Mental Illness in The Sims. Now I posted this survey on a couple different platforms. I did Facebook groups, I did it on my Twitter, my Instagram. I posted this hoping I would get at least 50 responses, but right now at the time that I'm filming this, I have an overwhelming 3,700 responses. Now the Sims community is huge, and though I received almost 4,000 responses, this is in no way representative of everyone. It's also likely that those who have a mental illness were more inclined to respond to this survey, so also keep that in mind. I feel like this should go without saying, but I am not a mental health professional. I am simply using Google and using real life experiences that I gathered from this survey to fill in any gaps and draw conclusions. In my survey, I ask about the Sims franchise. Now when I say the Sims franchise, I do mean all of the Sims franchise, not just the Sims 1, 2, 3, and 4, but also free play, mobile, any spin-offs like Sims Medieval, The Herb, SimCity, and countless others. However, I did mostly post this survey in forums and groups largely related to the Sims 1, 2, 3, and 4. And lastly, I'd like to define coping mechanisms. So according to dictionary.com, coping mechanisms are defined as an adaptation to environmental stress that is based on conscious or unconscious choice and that enhances control over behavior or gives psychological comfort. Now, I am not claiming that playing The Sims or any other video game is a healthier coping mechanism than talking to a loved one or receiving therapy. Okay, I think that's everything, so let's go ahead and jump in. Question 1. How old were you when you started playing a game in the Sims franchise? Looking at the graph, almost half of the responses indicated that they were between the ages of 5 and 10 when they first started playing a game in the Sims franchise. And only about 3% of the people that responded to the survey indicated that they were 26 or older when they started playing a game in the Sims franchise. Now, I find this to be particularly interesting considering the adult themes in the earlier Sims games, particularly The Sims 1 and The Sims 2. Now, the age category for those games were 13 and 12 respectively, and the second largest category for this question was between the ages of 11 and 15, so it definitely seems like EA was hitting their target audience. When reading through the responses, there was definitely a common theme for those who had been playing The Sims since they were a child. Many indicated that they would play the game as a form of escapism to forget the anxieties of the real world, any abuse that they had been encountering, and countless other reasons. I started making machinima videos with The Sims 2 when I was about 12 years old. I was launched into a YouTube community of kids and teenagers, like myself, who wrote and directed Sims films as an outlet. For years I called my Sims movies diary entries, because I was clearly able to express my feelings through film and metaphor better than in words. I made lifelong friends and gained invaluable art skills. The Sims is the reason why I ended up doing my bachelor's degree in screenwriting and film studies. I'm now 25, and the Sims community of 2007 through 2015 completely shaped who I am today. As a young queer kid back when The Sims 4 came out, it allowed me to express myself in ways I was too scared to do back then. As someone who was neglected and abused as a child, The Sims lets me create happy, loving families that support one another and live that fantasy out. I feel connected to my Sim family that I've played with for over 2 years now, and I feel like a part of their family. I know that they're fake people, but it makes me feel included in something. I feel like I learn lessons as my Sims go through life. Lessons about discipline, self-control, self-expression, loyalty, resilience, growth, trust, etc. They're my own stories, but they let me play with these ideas much like little kids play with dolls to learn about social interactions and explore their values. As someone with bipolar disorder who is still learning about these things as an adult, it helps me. Also, as someone who struggles with the sense of identity, making Sims to express different sides of myself is therapeutic. Question number 2. How long have you been playing a game in the Sims franchise? I'm not sure what I expected for this question, but I'm a little bit shocked to see an almost even split between 3 categories. As you can see, about 30% of people that responded to the survey have been playing a game in the Sims franchise for 16 to 20 years. Likewise, another 30% of the respondents have been playing for 11 to 15 years, and nearly 25% have been playing for 6 to 10. I think the results from this question say a lot not only about how much the game has impacted players on a personal level, but also the longevity of the game and how it has evolved into the modern day, especially with how it's evolved throughout the years with new DLC, custom content, and mods. Like I said, I'm not really sure what I expected from this question, however, it's clear that we have a lot of early adopters of the game. And if you think about this in terms of mental health, having something like The Sims be so consistent throughout your life, for a big chunk of it no less, can definitely make you develop a sense of comfort and familiarity with the game. For a game to have so many dedicated players and still have consistency among the number of players that is only continuing to grow is honestly a big deal. In fact, I noticed a theme when looking at the responses. Many people mentioned going back to a previous game in the franchise as a coping mechanism, which I think we can see that correlation with the nostalgia that the game holds. As a kid and even well into adulthood, it gave me a life I could create and control, the thing I have had taken away from me again and again throughout my life. Playing The Sims 2 now brings me such good nostalgia where it's easier to remember the good times instead of all the bad. The Sims helps me escape from my day-to-day life. I find that when I'm having a particularly tough time in real life, I tend to play the game more often. It's a way to forget about the real world for a while. I especially struggled when I was in school, and when I think back to those years, The Sims 2 really jumps out. It has helped me a lot, and I still go back to that game from time to time when I need to wind down. Like I mentioned in the first question, the majority of people began playing a game in the Sims franchise between the ages of 5 and 10. Now those years are very critical for your development, so really it's no question that somebody would quickly develop that relationship with the game that eases the stressors that come with your mental health. Question number 3. Which game in the franchise did you start playing first? Now, admittedly, I did make a mistake with this question because I made this free response and really I should have made this multiple choice or a drop down, so I don't have a graph that I can show you. However, when I was going through the responses, a lot of them mentioned The Sims 1 or The Sims 2. Mental health aside, this was also really interesting because I discovered a lot of new Sims games that I didn't even know existed. I discovered The Sims Medieval, but the mobile version. Not to mention the vast variety between consoles. I saw people mention their PlayStation, Xbox, Wii, DS, and many more. The responses to this question definitely line up with question 1 and 2. The very first Sims game that is a life simulation as we know it today came out in February of 2000, and by March 2002, the game had sold almost 11.3 million copies worldwide. This obviously made it the best-selling PC game of that time. Now, The Sims 2 came out in September of 2004, so again, this aligns with the answers from question 1. And taking a look at the responses, it seems like people quickly fell in love with the game. I love playing The Sims. I have been a Sims fan for many years. I think I was 5 or 6 years old when I first started to play, and I fell in love with the game. Every new game pack, expansion pack, or any new addition to the game makes me happy because I know it'll be good. Question number 4. Have you ever struggled with and/or currently have a form of mental illness? So, like I mentioned before, it's more likely that people who actually have a mental illness were more inclined to take the survey in the first place, and clearly the majority of people responded yes. I then asked people to share what they were struggling with if they felt comfortable to do so. A lot of the answers were depression and anxiety, which is really not a shocker here considering depression and anxiety is one of the top mental illnesses in the world. The next 2 most common responses were body dysmorphia and bipolar disorder. Now, I was actually really surprised to see the amount of responses that had body dysmorphia. Not that people don't have body dysmorphia, obviously. However, I was interested in seeing how that played out in terms of The Sims. Now, The Sims has made it easier and easier for you to create yourself in-game with their inclusion of the new gender options and clothing style preferences. But that's not to say it's perfect. We are still lacking things like darker skin tones that aren't patchy and more options for textured hairstyles. However, there were several replies from transgender people detailing how the game has helped them work through their own body dysmorphia. The Sims has helped me by providing an escape world. I can create whoever I want, however I want. I struggle with my body image a lot as a transgender person, and being able to create a sim that reflects what I want my body to be is a wonderful feeling. In The Sims, you aren't judged for your sexuality, gender, or passions. Everyone merely exists. I appreciate that. Helps me with my dysphoria from being transgender, and it gives me time to get away from the world's pressures. So these next 2 questions I'm going to just jam together because they kind of cover the same thing. Have you ever played a video game as a coping mechanism? And have you ever played a game in the Sims franchise as a coping mechanism? Nearly 90% of respondents replied yes to both of these questions. Again, like I've mentioned earlier, a lot of people that did this survey probably have and/or had a form of mental illness at some point and resonated with the purpose of this survey, so I'm not surprised the answers turned out this way. Like Like Halo, The Elder Scrolls, and countless others, The Sims is known for its relaxing music. Whether it be the music that plays when you load up the game or when you're building a house, it makes an impact. It's calming, it's soothing, it's nostalgic, and it brings a level of comfort that is consistently there. It can quickly make players feel at ease and forget about the troubles that come from their real life. Sometimes I like to play Sims 1 build by music while building in other generations of the game because it can really relax me and puts me in such a good mood as I am focusing purely on my build and not anything that might have happened to me recently. Outside of the music, the game is set up with low risk and high reward. Not only are people playing as they zone out to create the perfect build, but they also create their idealized lives. Playing The Sims gives me the opportunity to create the life I want/wanted. I can change my childhood, I can give myself the most ideal future, and I can get rid of all my troubles. My Sims can go out without fear of anxiety attacks and can do things that I could never do due to my mental health issues. It helps me escape and forget the world around me for hours at a time, which usually I can only do by sleeping all day. I enjoy being able to have large happy families when I feel lonely, or have successful careers when I am feeling like a failure. I've turned towards Sims during my lowest of lows. After failed suicide attempts and self-harm, The Sims becomes my safety net. While reading these responses, I was really surprised to see how much this game has impacted people within their actual social lives and actual social needs. Whether it helps people play out social interactions that may occur to them in real life, or ease anxieties that come with FOMO. It was a way for me to explore social relationships without having to risk putting myself into dangerous situations. It inspired me a lot when it came to my relationship with food and body image, particularly The Sims 3 and 4 in that aspect with the body creation capacity. So I think that the overall takeaway here is that you and me, we're not alone. The Sims has helped people more than I ever could have imagined. This whole process really put into perspective my own gameplay style, and I had never really dug deep into this before, and maybe you at home haven't done this either, but reading it and seeing playstyles similar to my own and the reasons why others are doing it honestly made me realize that I was probably doing much of the same. Prior to starting the research to this video, one of my favorite things was to sit in the dark, listen to music, and build on Sims. Much like most of you, it eased my anxieties and provided me a creative outlet. I myself have been playing The Sims since I was 8 years old, and I'm now 22 and graduated from college. I don't exactly remember which game in the franchise was my first, but I know it's either the first Sims or the Herbs on PS2. And yeah, the first time I played it, I was absolutely hooked. I definitely had a dysfunctional family growing up, and there were countless days where I would spend 12 or more hours playing The Sims. I myself battle depression and anxiety on a daily basis. Admittedly, right now was one of the toughest points of my life. I started this YouTube channel at the end of last month, so I'm only about 2 weeks in. And to put it simply, this has just been another thing that I can add on ways that The Sims helps me cope. So before I start reading a lot of the other responses, I do want to briefly mention my next video essay and how you can get involved. So if you like killing your Sims, my next video essay will be why we like killing the Sims and what it means. I posted another survey in the description below, and it shouldn't take you more than a minute to complete. I was a loser as a kid. I had 0 friends. It continued into my teen years, then followed me as an adult. The Sims really helped me then and now. I play out the life I wish I had. I try to be friends with everyone in the game. I date and fall in love. All the things I seem to be unable to do in the real world. To some it's just a game, but to me it's everything. When I have depression, I like to play The Sims to forget my personal life for a couple minutes. The problem is that my husband puts me down when I want to play. He argues, this is a game for children, not for a mom. I'm not allowed to play The Sims. Even when I turn on the PC, he starts to yell at me for no reason. He will never understand how it is to be with 3 children 24/7 without a pause, and the only thing that I want at night is to play a little bit of The Sims to put the stress from the day to the side. I play The Sims as a form of escape. Between mental illness and quarantine, leaving the house is next to impossible some days, so being able to go places and do things in The Sims kind of fills that void. It's also encouraging for me to actually get out and do more in real life. Gay relationships have been an option since day one in the game. It was never a big deal in the Sims franchise and really helps someone struggling with their sexuality to feel like they're normal. I love Sims and so does my mama. Back in the day, she was so engrossed in a game of Sims that I was able to steal her car at 14 years old for almost 20 minutes. I just asked for her keys to sit and listen to music and drove around with my neighbor. She didn't find out until I was well into my 20s. I just played The Sims for fun. It's never been an escape. When I feel anxious, I'm actually unable to play or enjoy the game. The Sims was my way of escaping a life where I felt unwanted. People in school bullied me constantly for being a fan of The Sims and called me a girl. I was born a male but identify as non-binary now. It got to the point where they'd push me out of the locker room when we had gym because girls aren't supposed to change with the boys. I came home to an empty house every day as my parents worked late and I had no friends. The Sims let me make myself and have friends, and I fear what would have happened if I had never had that daily escape from an otherwise hellish day. This is honestly one of the many ways the game series has helped. It gave me a creative outlet as well that just helped so incredibly much. So that is it for today's video. I hope this video made you realize you're not alone, or maybe it made you self-aware on how The Sims has impacted your life. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so that way you can be notified every single time I upload new Sims content. And if you're comfortable sharing, comment down below how The Sims has impacted your mental health. See you in the next one. Bye!